I'm responding to Esmeralda Velasquez. Within the last 2 decades, there has been an increase in college attendees, therefore increasing tuition prices, as according to the law of supply and demand. Increase in demand increases tuition prices. Her main claim is raising college tuition will negatively impact the graduation rate. Her secondary claims are a greater student debt will result in discouragement for students to pursue a higher education. Her second secondary claim is increasing college tuition will negatively impact the socioeconomic status of more communities. And her third secondary claim is the higher cost of an education will further influence middle class and lower class students to settle for a trade, school, or entry-level job. I will be responding to the first secondary claim with evidence challenges and counterclaims. Her first secondary claim is a greater student debt will result in discouragement for students to pursue a higher education. No statistical evidence was listed, no real cases were presented. The lack of evidence and examples of real cases questions as to how much of that is conjecture. Without presenting cases and an estimated amount of students that don't pursue higher education, the depth and impact is loosened. I will not be presenting my counterclaims. Increasing tuition does discourage students to pursue a higher education, but there are methods to combat increasing tuition, which can make it less discouraging to pursue a higher education. I will provide 3 methods. The first method is there are grants and scholarships that are going unclaimed, and it's just a simple matter of fact of applying to more scholarships and grants. Approximately $2.9 billion worth of FAFSA grants went unclaimed in 2013. An estimated 47% of high school students neglected to submit their FAFSA in 2013. And my second approach is attending community college first, alongside applying for more scholarships and working to save up money, along taking as many summer classes as possible since they are cheaper, and this is an effective approach to counter the rising tuition to a certain degree. The third effective approach would be to study abroad. Germany, France, and other countries in Europe offer low to free college tuition even to American students, and even with living expenses included, it's still cheaper than the US. According to the Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst German Academic Exchange Service, in the University of Cologne in Germany, 1 semester costs around 234 euros with 42 cents, which is currently $255.99. And I quote the exchange service: a German student's average monthly budget amounts to 864 euros. This includes rent, travel expenses, costs for food, clothing, learning material, health insurance, phone, internet, radio, and television fees, and expenses for leisure activities. This is significantly lower than the tuition students pay at Cal State, which is an average of $5,472, and that's just for tuition alone, not including all those other leisure activities and fees. And most definitely lower than the tuition cost of 1 semester at a UC. I will be providing 2 attacking points to the first secondary claim. For engineering majors, increasing tuition was quite inelastic. It did not discourage many to pursue a higher education in this major despite the increase in tuition. In students' response to tuition increase by academic majors, empirical grounds for a cost-related tuition policy by authors Zhong Xiu Xin and San Xiu Milton, they posted research on the effects of tuition increases in 6 academic majors, which are engineering, physics, business, mathematics, biology, and education. In their findings, they found that increasing tuition had little to no effect on the pursuit of an engineering degrees as opposed to the other majors. This raises the question as to what other majors tuition increase won't discourage students to continue their education. My secondary attacking point to this first secondary claim is tuition has increased and is due to an increase in demand. There are more students in college now than ever, as the National Center for Educational Statistics reports. Fall enrollment in degree-granting post-secondary institutions increased by 21% between 1994 and 2004. Between 2004 and 2014, enrollment increased 17% from 17.3 million to 20.2 million. The number of full-time students rose 17% between 2004 and 2014, while the number of part-time students rose 16%. Yes, an increase is discouraging students to graduate, but people are now pursuing college education more than ever. I will now be responding to her second secondary claim, which is increasing college tuition will negatively impact the socioeconomic status of more communities. The connection of the secondary claim to the main claim was not strongly made. The main claim was that an increase in tuition will negatively impact the graduation rate. The status of low socioeconomic status communities is not relevant to the main claim because the main claim is about the negative impacts the graduation rate on the negative impact of the graduation rate. not about the socioeconomic status of communities. I will now provide 2 attacking points to her secondary claim. She made the point that the cycle of low socioeconomic status within a family will lead to academic deprivation for the offspring. Here's an effective approach to combat this problem. Right after high school, you don't have to go to college. It's not that necessary. Don't have kids yet. Save money, then go to college so that later your offspring won't be deprived to the same extent as would have been. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a family will spend approximately $12,980 annually per child in a middle income, and it only increases as the child ages. That's money you need for yourself and also the time you need for yourself to strive forward in pursuit of your goals, such as a higher education. I will be attacking her sub-point, her secondary claim, which is low SES communities have less financial support to provide for academic support. There is less financial support in low socioeconomic status communities, and to reduce this problem, working summers and starting to save early in high school, and applying to more scholarships that are going unclaimed, and applying to entrance programs that help low-income students pay for school, are such as the Gates Millennium Scholars and the Google Scholarship Program are programs and scholarships that one can take and claim to reduce the increase in tuition. And lastly, I'll provide 1 attacking point to her third secondary claim, which is the higher cost of an education will further influence middle and lower class students to settle for a trade school or entry-level job. There might be high demand for bachelors, but there is too much supply and is diluting bachelor degrees. The student debt is around $1.2 trillion. With an increase in college attendees, more college students are having a rough time finding a job after college. According to a survey conducted by CareerBuilder.com, 31% of 2014 graduates are not employed, and 51% of graduates are employed in jobs that don't require a degree. And in conclusion, there are many methods and effective counters that one can take to reduce the negative impact of the graduation rate in college. Thank you.
Every time I start to think I'm going to speak, the sneeze is right there. It's on the brink, right behind me. Okay, you've got a lot of argument on the first point, a good-sized argument on the second point, and the third point you basically ran out of time on, so you need to distribute a little bit more. But I thought that you were very thorough on that first point, and that's where there's a lot of dependent information. Basically the supporting structure of the advocate's claim is a chain of arguments, and if you are correct on the first point, that seems to minimize the importance of the other points, and I think that that's something that you could point out. The responses that you have here are pretty good. You've got some press on their lack of evidence. You suggest it's conjecture, and then you really have some good data about the availability of scholarships and access as a result of financial assistance. That's pretty solid. The idea of going to Germany, I like the way you strolled a little bit with the German pronunciation of that organization. That's an interesting point. Of course, I think the response that somebody would make in this particular situation is, that's great if you speak German.
Oh, they have English.
Yeah, well, that would be the answer that you would give, but you should either give that argument in anticipation, or we have to wait for the second rebuttal that you get, and you want to think about those kinds of things. Like I said, I knew that's what, because I've heard this kind of stuff before. I know that they have a lot of them, but I'm not sure you can complete your degree without being able to speak some of the language. That's a potential problem or drawback. But like you said, it's just an argument that tries to minimize the issue. You're not saying everybody should go overseas to do this, but anybody who's feeling these economic pressures, there are options available to you, and I like that. To me, the information that you had that was most effective came at the end of that point. One, that some majors are inelastic in regard to changes in tuition, and even though we do have some majors that seem to respond to this, we still have more people attending college than ever before, despite the fact that tuitions are going up, which seems to contradict the general premise of the advocate's argument. So I think that that works pretty well. On the second point, you get a little sidetracked on the argument about whether or not it's relevant. I think that's an okay point to make, but you spend a lot of time on it, and I'm trying to do the same thing you did. Spend more time on the first point, a little time on the second point, and the third point we'll just say, I think you rushed that one, and it's not quite as clear as it should be. There we go. Jiminy Crickets.